Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Last Epoch dev stream. As always, I'm your host, Mike. Hello. How are you? I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. Let's hop right in. We're going to keep playing our same build, doing Holy Trail. It's pretty fun. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I'm going to keep playing it. Cruising through some monoliths. I think we've got a... I was trying to unlock Empowered to crank up that difficulty. Yeah, we are an hour earlier than usual. I've got some family stuff to take care of at the usual second half of the stream, so we're starting an hour early. Oi, oi, Savoli? So, I don't know. I probably said that wrong, but I'm keeping with it. Hello, Diddlus. How's everybody doing? Burger Daddy, these terrible things that you do, would they be submitting an application and signing an NDA and waiting patiently? Oh yes. Now, last week I muddled with my settings, so I was trying to get some more of the music in the background to come through, and it made it really hard to hear me, so please let me know how it's sounding for everyone here, and I'll tweak on the fly. I did some adjusting after last one, and I hope it's better. Oops, that was a bad volatile reversal. It's been a busy day so far today. Yeah, so if this is your first time here, I'm just going to play some Last Epoch, and please feel free to ask any questions you have about the game, and I'll do my best to answer them. You can put at Last Epoch Game in the question, I will see it better. And as always, our stream is strictly for charity, so we've got Good Sports as our charity right now, who help kids get into sports that, for various reasons, may not have the ability to get into them on their own. There's all sorts of reasons, but they just help kids get into sports, which I think is great. Yeah, and so as many of you may know, on Tuesday, maybe yesterday, the last couple of days, we turned on our multiplayer servers for our community tester program again, and we don't plan on turning them off. Just ever. No, as long as we possibly can keep them on. My goal is years. Let's start up and going. Except for multiplayer, do y'all have a post up for your most current thoughts on trade economy for multiplayer, how it work, etc.? No, we don't actually. There's basically no information up on trade the way it's going to be at all at the moment. We're still pretty early in its development, and we've realized that we need to be able to test it and make sure it's what we want before we really detail to everyone what it's going to be. And so we've just had our very first successful item transfers. So we're really early testing of item transfer systems. And so yeah, we're still working out the kinks on those systems, and we'll need to get some testing in before we finish the design and start actually talking about what it is going to be. But will there be a wipe before release? Well, yes, but actually no. Everyone who's in the CT program, the CT program's like a PTR. It's not public yet, but it's a different entire entity. So anything that happens in the CT program does not carry out. What happens in CT stays in CT. And will not be carried over to the live build version when that comes out. However, once we do hit 0.9 and we have an official launch for multiplayer, all of the characters that are created in that, the plan right now, and I say the plan right now because, you know, things can change, maybe there's a problem or a bug or something, but the plan is to keep all those characters in a standard league or standard cycle type environment where they're still playable, but they're just not on the ladder, basically. So you won't lose your stuff. But if you want to compete in the ladder and take part in the new, all the new stuff there, whatever that means, which still is also not fully detailed yet, those will be playable, but not playable in the new league cycle, as we're calling it. Yeah. I think that's another question that I skipped. Could you please explain sextant blocking? I mean, it's a really sturdy sextant. Yeah? It creates a magical shield? I don't know. You don't need a shield to block. So it's shields are the most generally useful tools for blocking. And that's where the majority of block will come from. But you can block with any device, any weapon, anything, as long as you have a source of block, be it through a passive skill or like an item affix. There's all sorts of ways to get block. Lots of two-handed weapons have block on them as well. Maybe not lots, a few. Good afternoon, good afternoon. I wish you a great stream. Thank you very much. I bought the game a long time ago and now I'm facing a problem. Now I have a terrible internet almost always except late evening and night, like now. Because the game does not support Steam offline mode, it is very difficult for me to enter it. And what's more, without the internet, I can't enter the character, which is also quite painful. Okay, I'll get that. Are there any improvements planned for this direction? So as soon as you're logged in, you can unplug your internet and it'll just work. As soon as you're logged in, as soon as you see that character select screen, you can just unplug your internet and everything should be fine. Hey, Uncle John! Welcome with the raiding party. Glad to have you with us. Welcome everyone from there. We're just getting started. We're pretty early in our stream. This is the official Last Epoch developer Q&A weekly stream. An hour earlier than usual, but we're having some fun. Playing pretty casually. My build's a little overpowered because I don't have the right stuff unlocked, unfortunately, and so I'm trying to get through quickly-ish. To get good stuff unlocked, so I can actually have a tougher time here. I'll do the dungeons because that unlocks harder content quicker. Mike, not thinking this through properly. But back to this question we're asking about Steam offline. Yeah, there's we do plan to support Steam offline mode, and I believe that information is reflected in our multiplayer FAQ as well. Because I just was working on the login flow for offline login flow. Login flow. Getting into game while not connected to the internet. Someone asked, how much did you miss? Extremely little. I've been here for 8 minutes. I've been rolling for 18, but I've only been here for 8. Let's get some more info in the surrounding area. I don't remember if it was answered in the past. Will we be able to link items in chat for 0.9? Yeah, we've been working on that. So even if we don't have trade, I can boast my 4LP Ravenous Void to my friends. If you ever get a 4LP Ravenous Void on an official live server, I'm going to open a large investigation into hacking. No. Yes, we are planning on having item linking in chat. That's part of the chat upgrades that we are rolling out for the CTs right now, actually. I don't think their version has item linking in it yet, but I know we do have functional item linking in our internal builds right now. Builds the wrong term. Our development environment. When you're in the editor, you can link items in chat. Also, we also added game guide linking, so you can do question mark rarity, and it puts a clickable link in chat to the game guide to the rarity page on the game guide. So you can like, and you can do any search term that would work for that page, because each page has search terms. So like rare would probably link the same as rarity. Yeah. It's actually pretty great. There's a whole bunch of chat improvements coming. Really looking forward to those. Should probably actually start this instead of just like.
Stand down or die.
I could probably be doing a better job at lining these trails up so they cover more area better, but you know, whatever.
Down or die.
Gotta get too empowered. Okay, next question. Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, and if you do have any questions, please put at Last Epoch Game in the question, so I see it better. I backed your game on Kickstarter. Thanks. That was a long time ago. So I have to say you made great job and progress, folks. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a while since Kickstarter. Yeah. I sometimes look at the old footage from the game builds back then, and my goodness, it's day and night. It's just completely. It's a completely different game. It's insane. All right. Have you heard the legend of Jotar of Discard? No, I have not. Who is Jotar of Discord? Jotar of Discord. I feel like that's a reference to something I just don't get. How did you come up with the idea to develop Last Epoch? And have you had any game dev experience before? So personally, I didn't start this project. The game director, Judd, he started this whole project. And it was just born out of a love of ARPGs and wanting to make one himself, and just so he could have the RPG that he wanted to play, really. And started recruiting people. Give a brief history here. Found a couple people that one who had actually started on a project like this already, but wasn't really prepared to take it all the way to this far, and a couple very talented developers, and then once had like a very basic version, started just posting on Reddit of like, hey, I'm making this game, and this is how I found out about this. This is like just a couple months in, about 3 or 4 months in. It was on the Diablo 2 subreddit. It was about a hypothetical skill system that I was like, that sounds cool, let's talk about this. I was unemployed at the time, fresh out of university. Yeah, I just started working on it evenings, weekends. And then as far as game dev before this experience for myself personally, I've got 2 apps on the Play Store released. And neither are overly popular, which is fine because they were built specifically as a just I'm gonna learn how to make games and see what happens, so just having fun with them. And a little bit of game design outside of video game space, so like magic card design, so similar but different. Created and printed a draft set for that, was it like 8 years ago now, which was a ton of fun. I actually have a box of it right behind me. This was never sold or anything, this was just for design. Exploration stuff. So here's like a booster box of a set that I made that will draft, and there's like little... Oh, those elastic bands probably sound fantastic. So there's like 3 packs that are like each elastic together on. You never do that to real cards. So it's draft ready. It's been sitting like that for like 2 years. We had to cancel one that we had planned. And just never actually did it. Fortunate. And then there's so many other people on the team that have very different game design and development experience. Stories to my own. Basically every story you could think of, there's a different person with one similar to it on our team. Alright, moving on. Will there be more Arena Champions bosses coming to fill the rest of the class's other builds? It seems like a great way to put in some class-specific chase uniques. Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's a really interesting design space. So I think there's a lot of room for doing some cool stuff that we've kind of talked about as like general ideas of like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if type things. And one idea that I always like, and I don't know how we do it, is putting in like last cycle's arena winners in different categories into the arena champion pool for the next cycle, or something like that, or like characters based off of the character they used. So maybe not like spec'd exactly the same with the same gear or anything like that, but like, like a Hammerden was top of the ladder, so we'll put a Hammerden in the champion pool for next time type thing. And I think there's lots of cool ways to involve the community that way. The other thing we've talked about doing is just having it be characters that staff play. So it's just like, oh, we'll put Jack's Flurry Rogue in this week. I don't think there's anyone named Jack on the team, actually. And if there is, I apologize. Tried to pick a name no one has on our team, and I probably should have picked a more obscure name. Jack, if you're out there, and you work on this game and I don't know somehow, I'm sorry, and I'd love to meet you. I'll also be pretty surprised. Alright. Good afternoon. Hope all is well. Yeah, it's pretty good. Any chance for Last Epoch to be running on Steam Deck anytime soon? Sorry if the question's already been asked. Well, so Steam Deck is, it's a very new platform. I think there's only 3 of us that have one at this point. So we don't have a lot of ways to develop and test for it at the moment. It is something we'd like to get involved with, but we don't have any plans for specifics on if or when we do that. It's not a huge stretch to get it working well, because we are taking a lot of general optimization steps right now that will help a lot with it. We are working to finish our controller support, which will help with a lot with it, and we do already have native Linux support. So those are like the big things that are needed to be done anyways to make it work nicely. So it probably won't be a stretch to include it in the future, but for now it is sort of an extra game mode that we don't want to support just yet. So it's probably a post 1.0 target. I know there's some people that have said they've got it working really well on there already. Some people have said they've got it working-ish, and there's problems, and there's varying results there. But I'm sure you can find some people on Reddit, forums, Discord that have had some success with it if you want help getting it working. But it is still a unsupported platform that we'd like to have at some point, but don't know when that will be. Alright. Let's get out of here. Alright, next question. The Jotar of Discord. Go to Last Epoch General chat and search for Jotar, you'll understand. Okay, I will. I don't usually keep too close of an eye on general there. I usually just look at Ask the Devs, suggestions, and feedback. Those are the ones I keep up to date on. Do you folks have a lot of interactions trading ideas with similar games dev teams? Oh, like do we like do we talk to like the crate guys, City Grim Dawn, or GGG does PoE? Like do we talk to those guys a whole bunch and things like that? There's a little bit of like I've been in a call with some of those guys, and which was a ton of fun. It was great. We didn't really talk about our games much, and for the most part, it was just like chatting about games, like you do with a friend you haven't seen in a few years, and you like games and want to talk about them. So I can't say we have like game design powwows or anything like that. But yeah, there's contact, I would say. Not a ton. All of us are really busy. Speaking of Crate and Grim Dawn, they just released, or are just put into early access, a new game in a new genre, Farthest Frontier. Which I play a little bit of, had a ton of fun with it. Did one run, got a little a little high and big full of myself. That's the term. Thought I was hot stuff, and put it to hard mode and got demolished. Absolutely demolished. Alright. What's the progress on the SFX and VFX front? I love them. I love the game's balance and extremely fun. The visual effects just don't feel chunky enough yet. Well, I will say that there's a lot that's happened. There's a ton. There's a whole bunch of little clips from previous dev streams that if you just want to see those, I think there's a forum thread. Andrew Tilley, I think posted that has like links to basically all of them. So there's lots of good resources there if you want to see a bunch of examples of what's going on. That is something that I can say we are getting extremely positive feedback from the CTs on. Is the updates to the visuals, VFX and SFX that have come through on that are being very, very well received. So that's coming in 0.9. Did I miss a question? Oh, I did. It wasn't paying me. I absolutely love your game. Will try my absolute best to get 2 friends to play it once multiple lunches. Okay, it wasn't a question, but sweet. Glad you're having fun. You once mentioned that Ballista was an example of a skill that was designed a while ago and could use some love. Will skills like this get that love before the 3 other masteries get released? Or is there planned update where masteries missing skills, update skills get implemented before 1.0? Yes and no to all of that. There's sort of there's not a strict like this is the order things are happening in that I can give you. We work on all of it kind of together simultaneously. I don't know when the masteries are coming, apart from the fact that it's sometime between now and 1.0 inclusive. So they're coming eventually. As far as those other skills, you'll see changes to skills happen, to existing skills happen every patch. Whether that is Ballista specifically on next patch, I can say we haven't done a bunch of work on it yet. There's a lot of things I want to do to Ballista. The character I've been playing online for the last like 3 months now. I've been trying to make Ballista work in a like leveling process, early monoliths, and all that sort of stuff, and it's just not there. I really want it to be, but I've been trying to get a lot of playtime with it to really get familiar with how that feel is not in the super late game timing. So it's learning that process and how that builds up is, I think, really important. What do I want? Nodes wise, let's just finish that off. Good node. I was wondering, will you eventually make expensive skins that are large in scope? For example, skins for transformation skills with completely new theme, model animations, and so on. That's like maybe. I don't have. There are no examples of that I can point to that have been created yet. So I can't say yes for sure, and I also don't like saying no for sure just about anything of will it ever happen questions. I will say that we do plan to have skill VFX options to like replace your skill VFX in the MTX store. I could see like a bundle maybe having like a fire mage bundle or something, and it's just like all the fire skills. I don't know. Just making that up right now. Maybe that's sort of thing, but yeah. And you can see examples of that. Where is it? It's this button. Like skill effects. Sort of this is what that was to indicate that we are going to put skill effects in the as a cosmetic thing you can have.
Stand down or die.
So that can be something as simple as like making fireball blue, or like very very large scale changes that I don't have good examples for right now, because that's I don't think we have any of those created yet, or not intentionally anyways. I bet there'll probably be ways to like make skills look like some enemy skills in certain situations. I can see that being a cool thing. There might be reasons not to do that. I don't know, multiplayer reasons. So we'll see. I like that idea though. How did you decide on the exact crafting material pickup range? I can imagine it was hard to find the right balance between lazily pick up the whole screen and just get frustrated that you can't pick up drops of one mob pick up in one go because they died too far with each other, from each other. Yeah, it's trial and error. Just pick a size and see how it feels. Make it bigger, make it smaller, see how it feels. I think the key thing is the minimum had to be items dropped from one pack of like densely packed mobs would be like all picked up simultaneously. So if like a medium-sized pack of of grouped mobs were attacking you and you killed all of them at once, any shards they all dropped should all kind of vacuum up together. I think that's sort of the like rough reasoning, so to speak. If you were starting Last Epoch development today, would you go with Unity Engine? Yeah, this is an interesting question, and it's like, if you knew what you knew now, would you do it all over again? And it's a really difficult. It's a question I get asked every couple weeks, and it's tough to answer because I think the answer is yes. I would still go with Unity, and I know that's kind of surprising, and it wasn't my decision to go with Unity in the first place, but I think it was a smart decision to go with Unity. I don't know if we would have been able to get to where we are now without going with Unity. Now, if we're gonna start over today with like the established studio that we have and everything, like that's a different story. It changes the circumstances a lot. But like, if this is a knowing what you know now, would you go through it again with Unity again? Yes, absolutely. With an established studio, maybe not. I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. I don't think there's been anything that's like severely problematic with Unity that we've really ever. I don't think we've gotten to a point where we're like cursed the fact that we went with Unity, and if only we had made a better decision back then, all our problems would be solved. Alright, I've read a bit about the Bazaar. What are your ideal trade system for the game when it's released? I don't, unfortunately, have any details on what trade will look like for Last Epoch when it releases yet. The Bazaar system is something that we had discussed and are no longer planning to do at this point. And it's one of those things I'd rather not talk about my personal preferences on the matter because it does get pretty muddy. Yeah. So, sorry, I'm going to sidestep in the trade question, but I apologize though. Why won't shattering chains drop? I don't know what that is, sorry. Like there's runes of shattering. It's probably a unique item that I just like don't know the name of. if you elaborate on what that is, I can possibly answer it. But for now, I'm going to move on. Sorry. Seeing the IG situation you're in, beg the question. The in-game, I see. Any plans on normal monolith shortcut for overgeared reroll? Yeah, so this is a very unique situation. Because I don't spend a lot of time preparing for streams or playing the game outside of multiplayer testing and actual development, and so the characters that I play on stream, I do use development tools to create them. So it's not really a good example often in progression systems, unfortunately. But it is sometimes feedback we get, especially on more experienced players, getting powerful builds in their second, third, fourth character into early monoliths and getting out of it quicker. Recently, we did increase the speed of that quite a lot. So I think we're still sort of in that let's observe phase of modifying those things, and it's possible it could change again, but I don't think there's any specific immediate plans for it right now. Hello, and everyone getting hyped for 0.9. Woohoo! Hi, Master Sword. Glad to have you here. I'm also hyped for 0.9. It's gonna be a bit silly. We're not. I don't want anyone to think we're like right around the corner or anything like that. We're still in CT testing. We're still taking people into the CT program, you know? Alright, also as a follow-up question to the skins, are you planning to make them in line with the current game aesthetics? Yes. Or will there be some goofy or bikini skins? No. Our plan is to have all the MTX be things that could feasibly exist in universe. What's the I always forget the term for this. It's a term that I love, and I just always forget it. I was trying to remember this earlier today, and it's like diegetic. It's kind of the right term, this kind of not, but it's something that could exist in the world and make sense in the world, so you're not seeing like one example we had this is, I can say this because it was the person is partner of one of our developers who's designing a unique, and they wanted a ice cream cone, like catalyst or shield. I think it was the request. It was a giant oversized ice cream cone, and we're like, we can't do that because it's like there wouldn't be a giant oversized ice cream cone in the world. Like we can't really explain that one. So yeah, the things that we do see in cosmetic, we do plan to be in universe, in lore, makes sense still. What's your favorite skill you have worked on? Oh, that's such a hard question. I've worked on most of the skills in the game. I worked on it all. I've worked on all the skills, the player skills in the game. So it's, what's your favorite skill is kind of the question at this point. It's my favorite skill. I really like... Such a hard question. I really like basic skills that have cool ways to change them. Oops, my hand is one off on the keyboard. I really like just like Fireball. And something that's like a canvas that you can kind of explore and change and all those sorts of things. But I think my favorite one... Ice Shards? Is that what it's called? I've changed the name so many times. Ice Barrage? Ice Barrage. I think that's my favorite one. It's very like Lucian alt from LoL, reminiscent. I really like that style. No, you know what it is? It's shurikens. It's shurikens specifically with the chakram node, and synergies with the with the shadow clones. So having like multiple shadow clones, and then like throwing chakram out and having them all throw it simultaneously, and then shifting to have them all the chakrams like pull back towards you in like a line and getting everything. Like that type of movement. That's my favorite skill. I'm gonna go with shurikens with specifically chakram node. Is my answer. All right. Unique belt 120 corruption plus. Really? Am I that? Whoops. Problem is the names get changed. So like we have a development name for something, and then it like has an actual name that gets released with, and I just like never remember what it is. That's a cool item. I do remember that item. Not gonna pick it up. Would normally. How do you design bosses usually? I'm not actually involved with boss design usually. We have one person. Well, there's a group of people that are encounter designers. I'm gonna do something else. See if I can bump the. I think I have some of Temporal Sanctum unlocked on this character, so I'm just gonna see if I can push through to a high level of that, because that gets tough. Boss design is interesting, so I do help with it sometimes, especially if there's new functionality that's needed for the boss mechanics. Come on, yeah, okay, 95. That'll be tough. Okay, time to put on the big boy pants. And boss design, usually there's I don't know how he does most of the initial boss design mechanics, so I don't really want to speak to it too much. There's a lot of playtesting involved though, because a lot of things that you think would be fun aren't, and just trying stuff out is a really important process in that. So having fast iteration times, being able to quickly add new components onto skills, test them out, see how they feel, that sort of stuff. That's really important. Quick changing. What's that? Ooh, we gotta move back here. Drop. Ah, hey, oh, let's not die. Come on. Yeah. Please don't forget to put at Last Epoch Game in the question if you are sending me one, so I see it. I have a feeling I'm falling behind because usually, I think we're at a higher viewer count than usual here. So I apologize if your questions are not getting answered. If I missed it and you like see that I skipped over it, please feel free to ask it again. But I just haven't got there yet. Oh, ice beetles. Oh, that's far. Oh, this is way closer. Let's go. Where are we going? This way. From a design perspective, is your team dead set on specific vision? Come on, 50%. That'll be tough. We can do it. Specific vision for what you want Last Epoch to be, or are you inclined to create and innovate based on what works with your game? I know my question is heavily PoE related, but I was wondering what other companies in the RPG world would think design-wise. I think there's a really... It's really difficult to strike the balance there, and it's really easy to get bogged down in one or the other. I think it's really tough to say like, okay, it has to be one way or the other, but there's a lot of room for it depends is the answer there, really. I think there are certain things that we try to stick to as much as possible, but it's important to know when to cut bait, you know, when to actually like take a step back. And there's certain things that we've been pretty firm on that we've realized we just kind of had to make a change later down the road. And I think it's a lot easier for us to make those large sweeping changes now in early access than it is for a game like PoE. To take those same types of steps, because there's so many more enfranchised players. There are so many more systems that they have to integrate with, in such a larger game that it has to play nice with as well. I'm getting so many helmets. I love it. I don't have a legendary potential helmet to go with them though, unfortunately. That must have been the floor modifier that I just didn't look at. So I was like, get out of there! A fellow Joss Strife Hayes watcher. I do watch Joss Strife Hayes sometimes. But I don't know what, not very often. I don't know what comment made you say that, but there's probably something that's slipped into my vocabulary from him. There's a door. Have I just not killed enough stuff yet? Yeah. Oh, it's just, it didn't trigger as one of those ones. Awesome. Oh, come on. Back and forth, back and forth. Let me jump. Come on. Someone up there. I want a lunge target. Whoop, bye. Bye again. How many others have the door? Idols. We need idols. That's good. 40% is not terrible either. Okay, let me see if I can hammer out a couple of these before the boss. Can you share T's hint at upcoming Forge Guard changes to company 0.9 pretty please? Cherry on top. Forge Guard? I think, Master Sword, you know this already. Forge Guard's getting some stuff for Manifest Armor, big visual overhaul, and some functional updates, let's call it. Hey man, been out there for a while. I feel the skill effects have changed, am I right? Oh yeah, there's even more coming down the pipe too. How long have you guys been working on LE before it became early access? We released into early access about 2 years, I want to say, after we started. So we did Kickstarter, and there was a publicly available like pre-alpha and alpha build before we did early access. That was like, so we've been playable since basically day one. Not quite, but say month 5. Happy to catch a stream again, even though I'm a little late to the party. Yes, sorry, I started early today, so sorry if it's been asked before, but what with the upcoming Shred rework? With the upcoming Shred rework, there's not a huge Shred rework coming. Have you gone back over items like Serpent's Milk again for later date? Maybe. Shred rework. I don't know what you're talking about, I'm sorry. I'm not that far behind. I'm basically caught up. Look at me. No problems. If you haven't done this fight before, that giant area of effect thing that's about to that goes off is will cause very bad times, and you got to make sure you kill it. Or not kill it. You got to make sure you jump away using your time travel ability that you've been using throughout the entire dungeon. That's sort of the way a lot of these dungeon boss fights are designed. Is they're designed to get you to learn a mechanic in the first part of the dungeon and then use it to kill the boss in the end. Woo! Volatile Reversal is probably really buggy in here, though, I think. So I don't know if I want to use it too much.
Escape is impossible. Sapphire waters.
Oh.
The future cannot be denied.
And yeah, if you don't go to the other timeline before that goes off, it will one-shot you.
Maggots.
Got her. Easy peasy.
So much.
Ooh, that's a nice large charm. Large charm. It's a 2-slot vertical charm. In my head, that's large charm. Alright, what do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Those are nice. It is decent, but not what I'm using for. Dream Thorn. Oh, we could make some legendary gloves with those, just what she dropped right away. 'Cause I don't think I have a... Do I have an exalted chest? I don't think I have a good exalted chest I can use with that at all. This is what we did. We went through this last time and I don't have one. Right. I was supposed to grab an exalted chest before coming in here. We're just gonna make these gloves just for fun. Why not, right? So first, which ones are we putting here? Doing spell minion stuff. And yeah, let's crank these ones up. Let's discover a blessing first. Oh, I'm gonna move myself over. Let's discover poison res. That's fine. But I don't want this prefix. Let's try and seal it. Nice. Discover another one then. Minion health. That actually works well with what we're doing. It's not great, but whatever. Boom. Wow. All right. It's a T23 pair of gloves right there. It's not bad at all. All right, let's see what we get. So if anyone's new on this, what we're doing is we're taking an exalted a pair of gloves and a unique pair of gloves with legendary potential on it. We're going into the past, we're putting it in the eternity cache, we're sealing the cache, we're going into the future, and then we are opening the cache, and it combines into one legendary item, which is the unique item we had before with affixes pulled from the exalted item equal to the legendary potential of the item had, which I believe was 1. So we'll see one random affix from that pulled over now. Fire res! Fire cold lightning res! Yeah, there we go. And void res on the actual base. Yeah, those are cool gloves. Let's just toss some random stuff on the ground, because... you know what, actually... Don't need shock. I'd rather that. Yeah, sure. Let's Should we try the full one? Let's try T5. Where's the right key? There it is. Okay. Let's get some questions again. Hey, how quick are you able to iterate on something like a new boss mechanic, i.e. from time code changes to playtesting in the dev environment? I mean, if there's code changes, basically however long it takes to compile, which is based on your computer's power, which, I mean, depending on how much is... If there's anything importing, it's more, but like, this is gonna be tough. I'm probably gonna die here, I think. I would say there's also a lot of things that you don't actually have to leave play mode. You can just change it on the fly. So lots of stuff 1 second after making the change, because we build a lot of components that you can put together. So say we want an ability to have, say it's a projectile, and we want it to be able to heat seek, to home in on a target. So we have a component that we put on that, on that ability, and we don't even have to leave play mode to do this. We can just put that on there, and it suddenly becomes heat seeking, and you can change the variables on there. So you can say things like, okay, I want it to only pick up targets that are within 5 units away. When it does pick up a unit, it's hard on it no matter what. Or it's like, I want it to pick up anything even remotely close, but I want it to only just kind of vaguely move in that direction or something like that. Or you can invert it to be like, I want it to avoid targets, so it tries not to hit things. That's always funny to look at too. And so there's lots of different things you can do where you don't need code changes, but when you do need code changes, I don't know, 20 minutes? Less? Are cold skeletons viable right now? They're okay. Define viable. Such a hard thing to actually define. Viable for what? But generally speaking, cold skeletons right now are on the lower awesome side. I think. I could be wrong. Someone out there has got like a sweet cold skeleton build, and they're like, "Mike, you idiot!" Oh, it wouldn't be the first time. What are your plans on balancing nerfing metas when the game releases? That is a crazy broad question, and the answer is it depends. I mean, the goal is I think talking about goals is a more appropriate thing to do. And some general philosophies, I think. So goals being having a diverse ladder and competitive environment where there are more than a handful of builds that are able to compete at higher level content. So you're not defining your build based on your content choices. I'd say that's a general goal. That's pretty good. How you go about that really depends on the situation. I think I think there's good examples that I think there's examples of overpowered abilities that I think we handled fairly well. And it also changes based on the fact that we're in early access and we're not fully launched yet, all sorts of stuff. Because I know this question has no relevance to any other game out there at all, right? Oh, I just picked a really hard one. Oh, and I'm backwards still. Maybe not backwards. Hey, not backwards. We have, so there's a EQ Wherebearer is a very popular build. It's short for Earthquake Wherebearer, and it gets enabled by an item called Baldur's Wrath, which is a two-handed mace that makes it so that every time you use a movement ability, non-channeled movement ability, I believe, it casts Earthquake. And Wherebearer has a fairly easily spammable, short-range, non-channeled movement ability. So you can trigger Earthquake a lot with it. And also in... oh, that's interesting. And, ooh, that's also interesting. And when you're in bear form, your rage, and I say that with air quotes, but I'm not taking my hand off the keyboard right now. Your rage is actually just a recolored mana. Like, it literally is just mana. Oh, that was a bad DR. Womp womp. So you can get a lot of Earthquakes off very easily. We've nerfed that build so many times. Like, so many times we've nerfed it, people have called us out and been like, oh, it's ruined, you killed the build completely. It's still one of the best builds. It's not gonna die. And I think the general thing that I usually talk about with this is, say you have a set of like 4, this on screen will be even easier. Drawing on the screen, woohoo! Say you have a set of builds that are, each one of these lines is a build. And then you have EQ Wherebearer that's like that. And then you have a whole bunch of other ones that are really small. Doesn't matter. I think it's important when looking at this situation, this build needs to be nerfed. It's clearly better than everything else. And I know this is a pretty contrived situation, but like, just follow with me on this one for a second. I think it's important to, and the one thing we've always tried to do is to not nerf it down to here. And it's generally actually to nerf it down to here. So still clearly above the other things. Or like, I mean, maybe give it a range. Give it like this range. So like somewhere where it's at least as good as what else is out there, but not worse. and it can be a little bit better still, and that's fine. And I think hitting that range is what's important. Or alternatively, if we think that all of these are too low, nerfing it down to here and bringing all of these up to match as well. And this is like one example of one situation, and it's different for every other situation. But this is how we try to approach balancing EQ Wherebearer. I like the red pen, so I'll switch back before you close that. And it changes every single time there's a balancing concern like that. It changes, because sometimes you have to look at and it's how you target that as well. So this is something else I could have drawn in there. Is maybe you have like EQ Wherebearer that uses Baldur's Wrath, but then you've also got like 5 other builds that all use Baldur's Wrath as well. So do you target Baldur's Wrath? Do you target Earthquake? Do you target Wherebearer? Do you target the interaction between those 3 things? Like, trying to hit the thing that's most unique to that build that doesn't hit other builds is important. Sometimes instead of just straight worse, like instead of just being like something maybe has say plus 100 damage and it's too strong, so plus 90 damage. Well, maybe instead of doing just nerfing it down plus 90 damage, it's you change it into a different stat that maybe is still powerful, but it doesn't have the same synergies with some other thing. Maybe it's introducing a new stat to go with it to add new synergies to something else to incentivize just more variety in builds as well. So there's a lot of different techniques for different situations, and I think it's important to note that it's all on a case by case basis. Oh, it was because I used diegetic. I did not get diegetic from the Jaw Strike phase, if that's what that comment was. But it is a sweet comment. It's a sweet term. What are your plans on balancing? Oh, whoops. There kind of is a shred rework. The resist shred are being capped at 10, not 20. You're totally right. I forgot about that. You are absolutely correct. And I died, guys. Does anyone know what that means? It means I like to share some stuff with you. So, here's a little teaser. A little character portrait. This will be a very familiar face in the future playing Last Epoch. This is Keeper Balthus. And he will be a pretty prominent character going forward in the future. I think they meant element rework, specifically the poison shred stack 30k. Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, there is some element changes happening with. There's certain like caps on individual effects on some elements. Like for example, poison shred is only applying for the first 30 stacks, which is still like it's not really much of a nerf to it at this point. But it's just new tech that we put in, and we're testing it out there. Not a question, but feedback. I really like the story Last Epoch. Awesome, thank you. We had a lore stream a little while ago that if you missed, there might be some cool new tidbits in there. We had our lore master on, and he went through a ton of stuff that was great. You like it because of time travel and returning characters. If I try a new game, the devs just keep introducing new characters in the story to the point where I stopped caring. Yeah, I mean, there is some interesting stuff we can do with time travel where, like you jump forward in time 100 years, but that character is still there because magic, and stuff's changed, and there are characters that make reappearances in the game, which is important. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Dev. Sorry if this has already been asked. Do you have an opinion on the current outrage over the PoE community and recent changes? Would be curious to learn how you view their new approach to loot goblins, etc. So I have not been playing the most recent, like, I guess it's been 2 leagues since I've even played PoE. Just been so busy with this that I haven't had a ton of time to do other gaming stuff, unfortunately. So I don't have any personal experience with it. So I don't really want to make too much of a comment on that. I think it's really tough to make meaningful changes to improve a game that's as large as PoE is. That's a cool item. And I don't know, from an outside looking in, I don't know what a better option would have been. But I like extremely similar feedback en masse is generally not to be ignored, I think. I know I'm being like super vague. I'm sorry. But I know one thing. They know their game way better than I know their game. That's for sure. I also know that you like. I'm sure they get this as well, but I know there's a lot of conflicting feedback as well. So it's hard to know. It's hard. I think it's hard to know what is really popular opinions and unpopular opinions and things like that. Like that's I think really a tough thing to suss out. And I think it's one thing I've found myself doing more and more since working on games is when I'm playing a game and I want to leave feedback for it, or sorry, when I'm playing a game and I don't really have any like negative or like things to say, like, oh, you should change this, you should fix that sort of thing. I find myself leaving feedback specifically of things that I like, of like details of things that I like, and I think that's really helpful because you start to see which things people maybe really like and just don't say anything because they're just like they're part of the game, and you're like, I love this as part of the game, but like you don't feel the need to say that you like that specific thing because it's already there, so there's no risk in it changing type thing. And just little things here and there I find myself commenting on, being like, oh, I really like the way this character talks. I don't know. And so I think feedback like that really helps developers in general, because it's the feedback of things that are not working is also extremely valuable. It's significantly more prominent, saturated than the things that are working well, though. Hello, Spike. How are you? I just Arrowweird has gifted a 2-month sub too. She Kane, thank you very much. That is our community manager who is now subbed to the channel. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. All goes to the same place, so it doesn't really matter who has the sub. Oh, these are cool. These are really rare to find. Vessel of Memory. These are really cool. So what this is if you're unfamiliar with this is our Monolith Echo Web, and I've kind of just been going off in one direction, but it goes off in all directions. And each one of these has a specific rewards. This rewards runes, this is gold, but all these ones that I've already got are tick marks, and so they're completed, so those rewards can't be done again. But this is a special island that, if you complete it, all of the ones that you finished before go back to unfinished, so you can do them again. So if you're like, you can farm a web for all the, like, find a whole bunch of, like, unique nodes, and if you're looking for uniques or something, and, like, get all of them, do this, resets them all, and you can do them all again. Or if you're like really looking for swords, you can do sword nodes, sort of thing. That's pretty cool. I like those ones. I'm gonna do it just to hardly ever see them. Oh my goodness, I have something on my screen while I've been playing, because I'm a huge noob, and yep, that's whoops. Sorry, guys. It's such a tiny little preview window over on the side monitor. Just like this tiny little bit. I just forget about it sometimes. I need like a thing that pops up on my screen that shows that it's there. That doesn't get picked up by OBS. If anyone knows how to do that, let me know. Oh, get out of that. I do love this bridge for this build. It just works so well. Alright. Are you aware what's broken at the moment build-wise? Me personally, I am not as up-to-date on it as I would like, Lizard. I feel like there's some people that probably know it better than I do. You probably know it's broken way better than I do. I think I've been less involved with the specific minutia of balancing lately than I have in the past. Also, how do you factor player skill into and I think that part of this as well is we don't have the metrics that we want hooked up yet on a scale that we would like for finding anomalies and outliers in builds and things like that as programmatically as we'd like. Right now, it's a lot of just talking to people, seeing what's on forums, looking at the ladder to some degree, but it's less useful than you might hope. Yeah. How do you factor player skill into build power? That's a great question. Like some builds perform really well even for noobs, while other builds are weaker for noobs but super strong once you know what you are doing. Yeah, I think so. Generally, that gets taken into account when we're looking at a build on how difficult it is to play. And usually that comes from just us playing it. You can tell pretty quickly. I think that an experienced player can tell fairly quickly how difficult, how much power is going to be player skill dependent in a build. I think that's pretty. That's not like perfectly, but like pretty generally, I think that's a not too hard thing to figure out. Another related question there. What sort of heuristics would be looked at while trying to assess build power? There's a lot of them, and I'm sure they would change, but like clear speed, clear reliability, max corruption, just deaths I think would be a good heuristic. Popularity, max arena waves. There's a lot of different things. This is just off the top of my head. There's a variety of stuff that would be very useful. There's probably some weird things that I wouldn't think of that would be very useful too. I'm trying to think of something that wouldn't seem useful but is. Maybe like popularity from ladder start. Like how good of a ladder starter build is something compared to like where are you in the ladder for like how I guess how item dependent is the build, I guess really is all that is. Is there a D3 planner like for Last Epoch? There's a sweet website. There's a couple of great websites actually. There's links on our Reddit sidebar. LastEpochTools.com, Tunk Labs. I think it's an S. Oh crap! Just got bookmarks for them. Extremely similar feedback on mass, like auto pickup shards. As I was saying it, I knew that someone would say that too. And I go clip it, go roll back the tape, see what I said. I think I said usually, or most of the time, or often, or something like that. It wasn't an absolute statement. I'd be willing to go to the tape for that one. Close the image. Yeah, working on it. Sorry. Do you always play with an overlay on your screen? Yeah, I deserve that. Old man still on screen, can't see anything. Yeah, I'm sorry. Not sure, just more amusing Mike's face tanking stuff when he shouldn't, or Mike explaining stuff on screen when it's covered with either reveal. Yeah. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that I'm not a full-time streamer. Don't quit your day job, Mike. Do you have something you will try to avoid the other devs within their games, or maybe something you get inspired by and want to make your own take on that for Last Epoch? Yeah, that definitely happens, and sometimes it's subconscious. I think the things to avoid happens more consciously usually. But yeah, it definitely happens where you'll we've had quite a few times where someone's pitched an idea. This happens all the time. Someone pitches an idea and is so excited about this idea, and you're like, "You ever played this game?" And they're like, "No, why?" It's just copy paste that game. It's there. And sometimes we have to be careful about doing things like that where it's too close. We just can't do it. But most of the time, we just make our game and try and ignore everything else that's out there. But you get influenced by it. Any creative medium, you get influenced by the things you've experienced. It's just the way it works. And chat, new to the game, what's a good class build for someone who likes really big weapon hit crits? Also high. There's a Racing Strike Void Cleave. I think has some good big individual hit builds right now. That's Void Knight. Where's the Racing Void Cleave right there? And a Racing Strike. Both of those, I think there's ways to go a little nutty with those. You're probably looking at Sentinel in general, or a weapon hits crits. Yeah, you're probably looking at Sentinel in general. There's some options in Primalist as well. Earthquake, Wherebearer, EQ Wherebearer probably is a good option actually. Speaking of Deckard Cain, can we have one canon timeline in Monolith where Deckard Cain did not die to butterfly dust? Thanks. I think it's a different world, isn't it? So the evolutionary timeline on Eterra and Sanctuary could be completely different. So it might be billions of years apart from each other. Another question here without a ping. That's okay. Any plans on additional minion classes? I would say, well, so kinda. as far as classes that are going to make it in for 1.0, Falconer will have a lot of minion functionality because there's going to be a Falcon that you're going to be using. So there's stuff there, but as a mass minion class similar to Necromancer or Primalist, no, none of the remaining masteries are planned to be in that category. That doesn't mean you can't have minion builds in other classes. Like, there's some very successful minion builds in Sentinel, which is generally not considered a minion class by most people initially, at least, I think. And we are planning on adding more base classes and masteries in the future as well, so there'll be more that will come. Minion builds are very popular class fantasy and build archetype, and that's very clear. Lizard, regarding your previous answer to player power, arena waves can be misleading. I agree. To judge power, some builds you need to play like a god, have DG gear, and try 200 attempts to get to wave 500, while some builds are broken, you get 500 waves your first try on a weekend race. I personally brute forced bad builds into looking OP, got nerfed, when in reality the build was underpowered compared to what's available. Yeah, it's I do not doubt that we've made that mistake with you in the past. At all. And that's why I was including it as one of many things that would be looked at. Awesome, thank you. The game looks really cool so far. Excited to check it out. Yeah, I hope you do. How is Warlock going to work? Similar to an ailment-based ascendancy or similar to WoW's minion playstyle? We don't have any major details on the unreleased mastery classes that I can reveal yet. I am sorry. I've probably mentioned some little tidbits on various things here or there. I think Warlock's one of the ones I've mentioned the least about. Will you balance build with campaign in mind, or will it mostly be for Monolith and Fate? I think it's really... Oops, I'm dying here. I think it's really important to pay attention to lots of different parts of the game, and we already do things to try and balance for different stages. It's tricky to balance things for earlier game content, but we do try and do that. I think it's more important to get into I want to say stricter balance later on in the game. So like if we were there's almost always a way out of this situation, I was about to say. So it's tough to say it's like an impasse really, but if we were at an impasse where the only option was make Monolith imbalanced or make like the campaign imbalanced for a specific situation, like I don't see how there'd be a situation where you like couldn't get out of that, because there's so many axes we can balance on. But if we were in that situation hypothetically, we probably would err towards endgame than the campaign. But I can't think of a specific example. Yeah. If you do have any more questions, please feel free to ask them with an Last Epoch game, so I'll see it easily. And no, it's one that I'm supposed to answer, and not just a chat. Got some more here. Just repost my question. Sorry if I missed it, my bad. Is there a purpose about... Oh, it's scrolling on its own. About why minions don't restore all their life when you back out of a monolith or when you enter a city? For full minion build, it's 20 seconds wasted each time, 2 or 3 monolith, and I don't see a purpose for that. Thanks for the game, by the way. It's really pleasant. So this is a tricky thing, and we've considered different options for doing something like this. Like we looked at doing a like a little fountain that you could stand in and it would heal your minions in town. we've looked at a few things for this, and it's definitely not a closed issue. Part of the problem is having a burden of optimal play that is kind of painful to do, and for seemingly no reason, it is frustrating at best. And when that burden of optimal play that's silly involves going to different zones, we really like to avoid it if possible. So if going back to town just healed all your minions to full, and pretty well, not necessarily in a monolith because it's a little bit different, but in a lot of different places, you could just boop back to town and all healed up, all right, go. And it's having that go back to town, go back to the world as like a heal button is potentially dangerous thing to have in the game. So I think that's probably why it doesn't exist yet. Though that's not to say it won't ever. Would you mind sharing any details for crit changes coming to 0.9 or possibly after 0.9? There's not really there's we haven't done any major changes to crit yet. We've been talking about trying to reduce the complexity in a with crit, because it is a percentage-based stat. Having increases to a percentage-based stat is quite often confusing to a lot of players. So we frequently get people say like, oh, I got 50% increased critical strike chance, but I'm not critting every other hit. It's broken, it's a bug. So we get that bug report surprisingly frequently. And what it's doing is it's a 50% increase to your base critical strike chance. So if you have 5 base crit, and you have 50% increase, you're now at 7.5% crit chance, which is way less than 50% crit chance. And that disconnect is a little tough to deal with sometimes. So we've been exploring the possibility of removing increased and reduced and more and less critical strike chance from most things, and replacing them with a balanced version of flat added crit chance. That's something we've been exploring. It's not set in stone, it's not done, it's not ready to go or anything like that, so it's a possibility. But that's the style of thing we're looking at, because there's having it be having these systems, because there's a lot of really complex systems that have to work together to make like that you have to use to make a character, and having those be simple enough that people can quickly and easily my phone just thought I was talking to it. Having those be simple and easy enough to understand for new players, but deep enough that they can be explored by experienced players is a very fine line to walk, and is really important. And I think it's like cornerstone of a good ARPG's itemization system. It's that easy to learn, hard to master one-liner. And having, and we kind of have to look at how much depth does each bit of complexity add. And people who watch the stream frequently will be sick and tired of me saying this, but if there's a way we can remove complexity without removing depth, that's probably a good thing. And anytime we are adding complexity, we need to ask ourselves, is this also adding depth? And there's exceptions to all of that. And like I say, ask the question, because it doesn't necessarily mean, if the answer is no, it doesn't mean like, oh, we're just not going to do it or something like that. But maybe it means we need to look at why it doesn't, and can we do anything to improve it to make it feel better, or to, like, is there a way to change it so it does in a good way? Oh, this is a cool item. I like this item a lot. And a legendary potential one too. Alrighty then, Mike, I recently saw a PoE player who made a PoE 70-page manifesto. Woo! Are you looking forward for community 70-page manifestos? Thanks, I'm finishing mine. At the start of reading that question, I was thinking to myself, I wonder how long it is until I see one of those from you. Yeah, I mean, like, I'll read the whole thing. I'll read all 70 pages. Absolutely. I think, I think that feedback when it gets that long, like you get like an essay on it, you gotta like structuring an essay like that is really important and really a skill. And so if you are gonna do one of those, make sure it's laid out nicely. Make sure there's sections and titles. There's a reason books have chapters, that sort of stuff. Because it's really difficult to get multiple points across in one set of feedback. And most of the time, I don't know the manifesto you're talking about specifically, or what yours is, or if that was a joke or not. But most of the time when I read humongous sets of feedback, where it's like a giant forum post, and I'm not talking specifically about Last Epoch, but just in general, it gets muddled in the middle frequently, where there's like the thread gets lost. It's you start to see other points seep in, and having focused feedback I think is really important. And I there's definitely situations where a very large manifesto like document is useful, definitely. For the most part, most of the time feedback is better when it is focused. And not always. Here we go. Next question. Hey, recently applied for the CT program. Awesome. Is there any date that we know when we find out if we got accepted or not? Pretty excited for even the idea of multiplayer in the game. Just how much I've enjoyed solo play. Yeah, it's like, have you been terrible to people publicly in the community and like been banned from chat at some point? No? You'll probably get in at some point. It'll take some time. It's less about I think there's a big misconception about thinking that we're like looking for specific qualities and features in an application of someone being like, oh, do they've experienced testing games or something like that, or how many hours they have playing Last Epoch specifically, like a minimum threshold or anything like that. It's less about that and more just there's a manual component to the intake process and it takes time. And we got a lot of applications, so we're working through them as fast as we can. And I hope yours gets answered along with everyone else's as soon as possible, and I know it will. Just takes a little time. So sorry you're not in yet. I hope you get in soon. Now that you remember there's a cap on shred elements that's being changed, how do you feel that impacts items like Serpent's Milk or Herald of the Scurry? I don't think it has a massive impact for most situations. I think it impacts, I think it has the biggest impact on more extreme situations where you get into like pushing in-game, like super in-game content. You're pushing really hard, and those situations I think is where it has the biggest impact. Where things were kind of scaling a little bit hard. I think it does a good job at addressing some more ubiquitous mechanics that were sort of just auto takes because they were so good and so easy to work into just about any build. And I think it brings a little bit more consideration into the build crafting in general. Reimer, if he's here, probably can answer that question way better than I can. if he's here though.
Yeah.
Any possible teasers for what you guys have planned for Tempest Strike? I'm dying to know. There's nothing planned yet. There's no details planned anyways. We plan to make it better. Work hasn't been begun on Tempest Strike yet. I'm sorry. We've had some like, there's lots of people that have discussed it and thought about it and all sort of stuff, but we haven't like officially gone to say like we're starting a Tempest Strike rework now or anything like that. Alright. Is there any plan in expanding the aura type skills to other classes and other skills? It seems passive boosts are kind of scarce, and you guys seem extremely active gameplay as a target. But since I think sincerely one of the most fun times I have is when I need 2 buttons to do most of the stuff and just run monos and unwind. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a significant number of builds that can be played with few buttons. Usually it's difficult to push really hard on a ton of different builds with very few buttons. But there are definitely builds that can do that. As far as more aura style abilities, I think it's unlikely. Part of the thing is having things unique to specific classes is really important to us. So this is like, when you talk about design pillars, this is one of our big design pillars is class identity. So there's a reason why Paladin specifically is the only class that gets a straight up classical aura. It's because that's like one of the big parts of the Paladin class identity is the ability to have an aura. And like we try and have that like big standout mechanic that really focuses hard on specific classes, and sometimes there is like overlap elsewhere. So like Primalist and Necromancer, Primalist and Acolyte have a ton of overlap. So there's lots of minion builds on both. There's transformation builds on both. There's melee builds on both. There's spellcasting builds on both. Like there's a lot of overlap there, but we always try and keep it pretty unique. And there's not a ton of room for unique and varied mechanical interactions for, or even theming for an aura style. That's pretty beefy. For auras, yeah. Like we already struggle a bit to come up with interesting mechanics for the skill tree for Holy Aura just in general, because it's usually just like a lot of stats. There's been some cool ideas I've seen recently though that'll, I think, improve that. And I could see other classes coming down the pipe in the future, like other masteries that aren't in the game yet, that might be thematically suited to aura style abilities at a similar level to Paladin, or more, at least more so than classes that are already in the game. Woo! And we do get triggered aura abilities all over the place, but it's just having that like that primary active ability being an aura skill is pretty Paladin. Oh, right. Can you refill potions when you die in the campaign? Feels bad dying to a boss and having 0 potions afterwards. That's a good point. I think it's probably a good suggestion. There might be a reason why we can't. I don't know. I'd be surprised. If you've got specific suggestions like that, the best place to put them is to the forums. Head on over to the forums, leave a post there, and we can see it and have record of it, all that jazz. I've been running Hammer Throw all the way from start to level 92. Oh, Mike, learn how to drink. Come on. At that I'm right now, and I spec fairly a lot into crit, but the throwing crit chance isn't all on the stat page like everything else is. Yes. Stat page has a lot of missing stuff. Do you guys take precautions or keep in mind the concept of keeping things clear enough in-game in order to avoid players depending too much on third-party tools like wikis and wikis like in PoE? Yes, I mean, we try our best to create in-game tools for as much as we can. There is danger in too much information in-game. It's a bad way to word that. Sorry, that was... I think there is a point where there's such a thing as too much information in game. That's maybe too. That's a bad way to put it too. Maybe too much information that's too in your face, too readily available. I think it can be overwhelming for some new players to see like they come in here and see all this, and even that can be too much to some players. But it's nowhere near enough for so many other players. And so displaying it in an appropriate way is really important. We do try and get as many of the tools in game as we possibly can. That's not the button I was looking for. So one thing that we do have is this game guide, and there's a ton of information in here. On like some of it's pretty detailed too, and like I would consider. I would suggest looking in here for information if you want more information on certain topics, and if you've got things that you think should go in here that aren't in here yet, it's a great suggestion to leave. There's also yeah, we know there's going to be third-party tools that pop up, and like there are lots of these tools that have popped up that we have had plans to make things like it, but just haven't had the time. So we're like, we've got, let's build this game as fast as we can, and people come along and build these tools that are really great, that would be tools that we'd put on a website, and they're just already done, and it sort of it disincentivizes us a little bit from, I don't want to say like stop making these tools and we'll make tools or anything like that, because it probably won't affect the overall time it would take us to actually make these things, but it does disincentivize it a little bit, where like you feel less pressure to make the tools when there is another awesome tool out there. But yeah, keeping things in game as much as possible is important to us. And yeah, so for example, Last Epoch Tools has like a build planning system and a build sharing website and everything, and it's really well done. And so loot filters have descriptions. So this big description field in loot filter, and it's kind of weird that there's this big description field here, because if you're making the loot filter, like, why do you need the description field, yada yada yada. And one thing we want to do still with loot filters is have them be shareable in game, so that you're like, I want to like go to the loot filter browser and find loot filter for my Hammerden, and you search like Hammerden loot filter or whatever, and it like brings up a list of ones that people have voted on that say these ones are good or something like that, and having that in game I think would be really useful. Oh, a chest piece with a ton of increased fire damage, that's amazing as a flippin' legendary piece for our Titan's Heart. Oh my goodness. Okay. Stop freaking out, everyone. Come on. Why? Stop. Okay, calm down. I can't. Let's go. Let me out of here. It's not even done yet. Ah! I have no lunge targets. I used to play an MMO called Rift. I played like 30 seconds of it. It was very promising, but I was very hooked on something else at the time. When you started off, they would give you some suggested builds new players get started. Is that an option for future of LE? It's possible. I think it's unlikely to happen. I think the goal, and something we've been fairly successful with so far, as I think witnessed by most comments you see on like Reddit or something, someone shows up. The thing we've been successful on is creating a system where you can hop in fairly easily and just sort of try something to see if it works. And usually it's enough to get you started as a starter build. Kind of anything will work enough to get you going. Within reason. Like if someone's like, I want to build a fireball character, great, you can do that. You take fire things and it'll work enough that you can get started. You know, and you see a lot of comments on Reddit. People like, okay, I'm new. What build should I play? And a lot of the comments are just that. They're just play whatever you want. Just try something. See if you like it. You know. And I really love that. That's a pretty popular comment for us to get. That's a very positive thing. And I hope we can maintain that. Yeah.
Stand down or die.
Oh, Judd answered right afterwards. I wonder what he said. I always get a little nervous when Judd answers right afterwards. I'm like, oh, I hope I didn't just like contradict him hard. Okay, let's get out of here. Let's go. Get out of here. Get out of here. When can I apply to multiplier? Right now. Go do it. Forums. Links there from Kane. Okay, go. Get a key. Come on, go. 41. Don't even have to do a hard one. Do you feel players are over entitled? I don't think so. No. I mean, it's such a blanket statement. It's like some players are, yes, probably. Most, nah. On the whole, nah. Let's do 80 just so it's a little interesting. There's a difference between providing feedback and a player feeling like they should be a co-developer. Yeah, I you know, like every once in a while you see a post that comes along that is maybe a little bit, yeah, but it's I can't say that I really ever feel pressure to I don't know, accommodate suggestions beyond what we think is appropriate or something. I don't know how to say it really. I think if players are feeling a sense of ownership over the game and a sense of like a sense of entitlement, I think it's probably actually a good thing to some degree. It means people are invested emotionally. It means people are probably at least having some semblance of fun. Like it's good enough to care, you know, that sort of thing. So I don't know, maybe in some cases, but I don't know if it's really a bad thing all the time. So yeah. I understand the type of feedback you're referring to, and it doesn't feel like a problem to me when I read it. The thing I think to myself is, oh, this person's invested. They like it. There's something here that's gripped them enough to be invested. So I quite often look at it as a good thing. Are you still hiring for programmers? I believe we are. There is a careers page on our website. I don't know the exact link to it. It's probably just like lastepochgame.com or lastepoch.com/careers. But Google will probably find it even faster than that. Oh yeah, we're going back for that. Not perfect, but I really like it.
Stand down or die.
Where am I going? Oh! No! Don't hurt me! I'm but a simple farmer! Is this the way to the market? Alright. Hi! Do you know when multiplayer is coming in? I do not know when multiplayer is coming in, I'm sorry. Oh, come on, just let me through, come on. Come on, yep. out of the way, buddy. Come on. What are you doing? Any dungeon changes coming before 0.9? I mean, it's not on the overhaul list, but any changes? Yeah, there's always changes. Always changes coming down the pipe. That's pretty nice too, actually. How does this game run on older NPCs? Not fantastic right now. We are focusing pretty hard on performance improvements at the moment. There's several people that are just cranking up that FPS right now. So after 0.9, you'll probably see much better performance than you'd see right now. Key things for better improvements, better performance while playing, if you'd like to try on a lower NPC, lock the frame rate. Actually, for everyone should lock their frame rate, I think, in this game right now with performances, which I know some people just hate, but it'll help, trust me. So right now, I'm running this on a GTX 1080 Ti, factory overclocked a little bit, I think, an i7 4770, I think, with probably like 16, maybe 32 gigs of RAM. But I think it's 32 now. Really important things classically, you know, games, solid state drive is super important. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm running it on medium settings with a locked frame rate, and I stick pretty solid at 60 FPS while streaming. Which I know when I said, some people are like, "Oh my god, only 60 FPS? That's terrible. You're basically playing on a slideshow." And I'm like, I'm old. I don't care. Alright. Some cool helmets here. I love finding Exalteds where it's only one affix. I love it. I love it. It's only a T6, so whatever, but you know, like a single affix T7, I love finding those. And I think we made some changes in 8.5 that actually makes it happen more often. So I think it's already live, but I definitely seen them more recently. About Arena, thinking about even memory arena keys to start half of your best ever push on that character. About Arena, thinking about every memory arena key to start half of your best. Oh, so have the arena key memory start at half of your character's best ever instead of half of your last one. I think, yeah. Sucks to start at 300 die lag something, and then you're back to 150 when the characters start doing 600 already. Yeah, I think that's probably a good suggestion. There is a reason it doesn't work that way right now. Ooh, that's actually a pretty nice amulet. Oh, alright. Well, Primalist, Nature Life, and Acolyte Death are two sides of the same coin. Overlap are hard to avoid. Yeah. Aura for Mastery that isn't in the game yet. So is that a Warlock teaser? No, I meant like really not in the game yet. Like really not in the game yet. Okay, gonna flip me over again, and because we're gonna do a little bit of crafting. So, exalted items that go in here have to be 4 affixes. So really, what we're hoping for is to hit this increased fire damage and ignite duration. I think that's our, you know. So this is strength and dexterity. So attunement is not what we want. So I'm actually gonna re-roll this into something else. It's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Thank you very much, Jazir. 15 months in a row. My goodness. Thank you very much. Glad to have you with us. Glad you're having fun. Oh, presumably glad you're having fun. Alright. Void Res. Yeah, Void Res is fine. Let's just crank these affixes up as high as we can. No, you know what? I think I want health on there if possible. Let's try and just re-roll these into something cool. Cold Res, it's fine. Dodge rating, whatever. Cold Res again. Health regen, yeah. Lightning Res, yeah. Health! Hey! Alright, I'll take it. So, ideally we want the first and last affix, I think, but we'll take the Cold Res. What's our Cold Res sitting at? It's way overcapped, but whatever. Go for gold! I love that little fade in. Love it so much. Alright. Have we had any answers on how trading will work? No. Is this free to play? Nope. There's $35 to buy the game. USD. It's different for other regions. Why do devs never make 2 UI, one for advanced players, one for casuals? Make it toggleable in settings. Is it because it's just too much work? It is a lot of extra work. A ton of time goes into making the UI for the game, and like having one be crazy polished is generally better, I think. I also think that there's some danger in that because quite often you'll see new player tutorial videos where it'll be like, alright, first thing you want to do when you boot up the game, go into your settings, turn on advanced visuals mode, good to go. And I think you see this in Diablo 3 actually, with where you start out, first time you play, like, it must have been months playing Diablo 3 before I learned that you could, you didn't have to put, like, the skills in the slots that they started in, where you can actually, like, change, like, you could, like, I don't know, each slot has, like, a category that goes with it, and you can only pick, like, one skill from that category to go in that slot by default, but in the settings you can turn that off and put any skill anywhere. And it like, the builds that unlock because of that are thousands of new build possibilities, probably way more than that with combinational stuff. And so, oh, we hit the fire damage, the mana's not great, we got the fire damage, nice. Pumped on that, actually. Sweet. Sweet. Was hoping for that health. Really hoping for the health. So I think there's some danger in the like new player tutorial videos telling you to go turn on this advanced mode and then it doesn't have the effect it's meant to anyways. But it's definitely something we've considered, so it's not a bad suggestion. Is there a release date? Not yet. Alright, we're gonna go for the boss, get this echo finished. I do really like this boss fight. So there's 3 of them. And if you kill one of them, so they all started doing a ton of fire damage, and if you kill one of them, they all have different abilities. They stick around in ethereal form and start spamming abilities that deal necrotic damage on the battlefield. So, depending on what your it's Baldur. That's the guy who's the hammer we were talking about earlier. Depending on your build, Usually in situations like this in most games, it's best to. It's probably obvious to most people. Try and kill them all simultaneously, so you don't end up in those weird unkillable extra.
My soul burns. My soul burns.
Their souls burn. Armor while channeling. We do not channel. Chance to share necrotic res. We don't want to do it. Fine, let's do fire res. A lot of fire damage. A lot of fire damage. This exact situation kind of reminds me, not having short cooldown spammable mobility skills makes some situations feel very bad, just like happening to you now. Are you planning perhaps to incorporate some sort of spammable mobility? I didn't have that experience personally right there as bad. It was, I mean, limitations I think are important. There are classes that have more short spammable skills, like Rogue's Shift is much shorter cooldown, much spammable, yeah, that's a word. And this comes back to the class identity thing as well. So having those, having the so lunge is really, and there are items that affect this as well. So you can have what I was doing there with lunge is like there was no targets for me to lunge to. That's why I think that's where we were talking about in Temporal Sanctum when I couldn't lunge to anything because there's no targets to lunge to. It was off cooldown the whole time, if it's the situation I'm thinking of. And like there's a unique item. If you don't like that and you want to change it, there's a unique item that lets you not need a target for it. But the base version of it, thematically, lunge is you're a heavily armored character. You're jumping into the fight. It's designed to go to a target. You're going in, not coming out. And that's the big thematic difference there for lunge. Whereas things like Shift on the Rogue, it's shorter distance, it's shorter cooldown, it's shorter mana, it doesn't require a target. It's more about promoting that agile, dexterity, primary, melee, or range class, character, playstyle, words. All right, I got just a couple minutes, and we're gonna be a pretty quick, pretty hard out on timing here, and we do, so I'm actually not going to do another echo after this one regardless. Fancy shard. You know, some shards have different colors on the ground, and they're rare. See, there's a normal shard, different shard. Make sure you pick those ones up. Don't even have to do a hard one, so no dying, right? Yeah. Same question. Have you thought about making skills and specializations easier to respec early on? We have improved that, or made it easier several times. So yeah, we've definitely talked about it. Recently, we added the minimum ability level, minimum skill level, so it made it so you didn't have to start at 1 every single time. They also have a catch-up mechanic, so if the skill is under leveled, it levels way faster. I think there's some misconceptions on difficulties of re-leveling skills or experimenting on skills while leveling a character. And I would urge you to more frequently respec skills. Like maybe like do an experiment, have like one that you just never respec, and then like some others that you respec more frequently as you're leveling, and see how far they actually get away from each other. This is probably going to be they're probably going to stick a lot closer than you'd expect. My suggestion would be to make a minimum specialized skill ramp quicker. As a new player, it feels pretty awful pushing to try new things earlier to see what you want to play, probably leading to more questions about what build should I play. Yeah, I think there might be something in the feeling of losing something you've earned that's causing negative feelings towards it, but I don't think it's as extreme as most people think it is. Hi, I've been playing the last few years on and off. Just learned last week you guys stream, and gotta say that you're got a magnificent beard. Thank you. Trying to grow one too, like you halfway there, 32 years old. Well, we are right in the same age bracket. I'm gonna flip my camera back because I just realized it's the wrong spot. I do have one last thing to share with you that I'm gonna put up while I'm talking out the last little bit. Here's a little bit of a turnaround with animations for Keeper Balthus that you'll see in game with his happy little friend there. If you are going to use beard oil on your beard as you're growing it out, which is probably a good idea to do, as it can get pretty itchy, try making your own, because it is so expensive to just buy beard oil, but making your own is cheap. I currently cap frames at 40. If I found an Acolyte build that can read 8.9, give me that 0.9 patch, please, on its way. Would you be willing to have the team look into scaling forging potential when exalted items have only one affix? I've run into multiple 1-2 affix exalted items that lacking forging potential to push their limits on them. That's unfortunate. That's just an RNG roll. So maybe if you suggestions best left on the forums. D3 was called elective mode. Yes. Challenge to keep it on. Yeah. Is there a loot filter for LP? No, there's not. That's all the questions. We're at time. I have a very important thing to go to. I really don't want to go to at all. Well, I do, but I don't want it to be existing. Anyways, I hope you had fun. I know I did. I will see you next week. I will be starting 1 hour later than I did this week, which is our normal time, which is 1 hour before right now for 2 hours. Normal times next week. That's what I'm trying to say. And we do have lots of other stuff planned, coming down the pipe, all that sort of stuff. So stay tuned for fun, for adventure.